Let me tell you, the day Claudia Thornhill tried to bulldoze my life, she wasn't just coming for my house, she was coming for everything my family ever stood for. I barely had my boots on the gravel when she stormed up to my truck, hair tight as a drum, rage tighter. "This ends today," she snapped right in my face, waving that damn clipboard like she was the queen of the county. I'd just driven 16 hours back to my family's farmhouse, the same place where my grandfather taught me how to square a boar by. And my grandma grew tomatoes so fat the neighbors lined up for them. But here was Claudia, ready to slap me with $1,400 a day in violations, all for so-called rules that didn't even exist in my deed. I'll tell you, in that moment, I didn't know I'd just tripped into $1 million scam, but by God, documenting every second would unravel her entire racket. Now, you've never really come home until you've smelled old wood, sun filtering through glass older than you, and heard a barn settle like it's breathing beside you. That first morning back, I was 40 years old, city restoration carpenter by trade, standing in my granddad's front hallway, letting all that history settle in my bones. The place had sat empty for years until I bought it back off a cousin who'd let the weeds win, but it was still ours, mine. And I'll be honest, I'd been careful as a fox with the paperwork. No HOA, no restrictions, just my name, my money, my bloodline on the deed. So when I found a flyer zip-tied to the front gate, white paper, big red letters, Community Standards Notice, I nearly laughed. Meadowbrook Homeowners Association, it said, like a threat. Supposedly, they cover my property, needed approval for any work, and had a whole website and hotline at the bottom. No signature, no date, no nothing. I double-checked everything. My lawyer buddy Holden had combed the records clean, my title was solid. And yet there it was, telling me I needed their blessing to fix a window. You ever get that feeling where a room just gets cold, even the sun? That's what hit me. And from there, things got weirder. The next hours vanished into a blur of snapping photos, measuring frames, making lists, documenting every detail. As the sun dipped, I watched a black sedan roll by, slow as molasses. Windows blacked out. Drove to the end, circled back, lingered at my driveway. Let me tell you, I've done city jobs in rougher neighborhoods, but something about that car made me feel more watched than I'd ever been. And that night, sitting on my porch with a beer, fireflies lighting up the old fields, I checked out the Meadowbrook HOA website. Stock photos, slick legal-sounding jargon, page after page of rules, fence heights, paint colors, Christmas lights, you name it, but nowhere did it say what houses actually belonged. Not a map, not a list, nothing. County records had never heard of them. State registry? Nada. These people didn't legally exist. I left a message for Holden, "Hey, call me. Something's off, and it's creeping me out." I couldn't shake the sense that I was being watched. That night, for the first time since I was a kid, I locked every door in the house. But let me tell you, ignorance didn't last long, because Claudia had plans for sunrise. 3 days later, FedEx dropped a thick envelope on my porch. The return address screamed legitimacy. Raised letters, expensive card stock. Inside, 7 violations, fines of $1,400 a day, 5 days to comply. My original picket fence, illegal. My work truck, a commercial vehicle. My lumber, a crime. I called Holden and he whistled low. That's textbook extortion. Don't pay them a cent. Virginia's one-party consent. Record everything. So I started my war, digitized every scrap of evidence, scanned and time-stamped every notice. Good thing, too, because 2 days later, Claudia herself showed up in the flesh. She marched around my house with her clipboard brigade, a camera woman snapping away, and a silent guy scribbling notes. She tried to stare me down, called me Mr. Ramsey, told me the county made a mistake, and they'd had authority since 2019. I set my phone to record and flat out told her, "You don't have jurisdiction. Show me proof or get off my land." She tried to ice me with a lawyerly smile, threatened to lean, warned me I'd regret it. Then she left in that same black sedan, but not before reminding me, 3 days, then this gets ugly. That recording? Gold. Holden listened, said, "She just confessed to everything. Build your case. And Beckett, don't engage." Let her come to you. That night, I dug through public records and watched a pattern appear. Claudia buying homes cheap from problem owners, flipping for hundreds of thousands in profit, always after an HOA dispute. She ran everything through an LLC, always the same routine. For families, $1 million. I realized I was next on her list, but unlike the others, I was fighting back. Now, let me back up a sec. Claudia escalated fast. Every other day, she'd show up, call out violations, slap flyers on utility poles, post in online forums about my refusal to comply. Neighbors who'd waved at me a week ago wouldn't meet my eye. I was being isolated, painted as the troublemaker, but I kept recording, screenshotting, documenting it all. And then, out of nowhere, a little crack in her armor. Mrs. Blackwood, my neighbor from down the bend, showed up with cookies and the kind of look only someone who's seen too much can have. She sat at my granddad's table and told me how Claudia ruined the Lawsons, a young couple with a baby, run out of their home by invented fines and legal threats. Claudia bought their place for pennies, flipped it for a small fortune. Same with a widow down the street, a just-married couple who'd barely unpacked. Mrs. Blackwood had seen it all, and she was ready to testify. This isn't about rules, son. This is about money. With her help, I started making calls. The Lawsons agreed to talk. Winifred, the widow, told me Claudia had made her afraid to sleep at night. The young couple emailed me pages of heartbreak. Every story fit the pattern: harassment, threats, sell cheap, or else. By the time Holden had my evidence binder, we had a RICO case in the making. Just as I thought I had my feet under me, the county police knocked on my door. Report of building code violations, sir. I laid out every permit, every approval. The older officer shook his head. Who called this in? Not legitimate. If they call again, it's abuse of emergency services. As their cruiser left, Claudia's black sedan was parked up the road, watching. She smiled and mouthed, 2 weeks. She wanted me to sweat, but I turned my guest room into a war room. Whiteboard timelines, binders for every encounter, cameras on every approach, motion alerts straight to my phone, cloud backups. I wasn't just defending myself, I was gathering ammo. I called Claudia's number, recorded every word as she tried to resolve things. Offer me $700,000 for a property worth at least $850,000. All if I just walked away and let her file her fake lien. There was harassment connected to profit, all on tape. I sent everything to a local reporter, Delaney Harper, who specialized in consumer fraud. She called me back within hours. This is huge. Can we meet? We spread the evidence across a coffee shop table, and she went pale reading. We planned a full expose, filming at my house, interviewing the victims, and confronting Claudia on camera. The news segment hit the airwaves like a thunderclap. 8 minutes of hard truth. My farmhouse, the so-called violations, the victims telling their stories, Claudia's voice offering hush money, her face slamming the door on a reporter. Public records proved her HOA never legally existed, but it had been used to squeeze families for over $1 million. The DA saw it. My phone exploded. Neighbors apologized, the press showed up, even politicians took notice. And then, out of nowhere, Holden hit me with a wild idea. To kill a fake HOA, you could start a real one. Minimal rules, resident run. Make it bulletproof so no one like Claudia ever tries this again. At first, I thought he was nuts. I hated HOAs, that's why I bought out here. But the more I listened, the more it made sense. I talked to Mrs. Blackwood, called a community meeting in my barn. More than 30 neighbors showed up, and together, we hammered out what would become Heritage Meadows Community Association. Minimal dues, no architectural review, no power games, just a legal shield for the folks who actually lived here. We filed paperwork, voted in a board, wrote bylaws right there in the sawdust and sweat. Claudia's lawyers sent threats, then a desperate lawsuit, defamation, interference, all of it nonsense. The courtroom was packed with press and neighbors. The judge, no nonsense as a sledgehammer, listened as Holden walked through every scrap of proof. Victims told their stories. Real estate experts testified. Claudia's organization had never existed legally. Holden played my recording, her voice tried by me out cheap, and you could feel the jury's anger rising. The verdict? Claudia lost everything. Fraud, extortion, emotional distress, RICO. She owed a cool $1.25 million in damages, barred for life from HOA activity, case forwarded for criminal prosecution. 3 months later, she took a plea deal, prison, restitution, and a ban from real estate. The families she'd hurt finally got paid back. My house was safe. The news ran follow-ups. Residents prove HOAs can work for people. We even helped pass new state laws to shut down fake HOAs for good. Sometimes I sit on my porch, wildflowers waving in the breeze, thinking about how close I came to losing it all. I get calls now, folks asking how to fight back, what to document, who to call. I never planned to be an advocate, but maybe that's my new calling. Mrs. Blackwood says I turn a nightmare into a model community. Maybe she's right, but mostly, I'm just grateful I didn't blink when it mattered. So, let me ask you, what would you have done if someone threatened to steal your family's legacy? Drop a comment, tell me your stories, debate what real justice looks like. Because at the end of the day, one person standing their ground can change everything. And if you ever find yourself cornered by a bully with a clipboard, remember, document everything, trust your gut, and never let him scare you off your own porch. If you got something out of this, share your take below. Where's the line between order and overreach, between community and control? I'm all ears, and I bet a lot of folks out there are too.